from the National News Studio, Sri Lanka.
Hello there, good evening and welcome to the National News broadcast. We are coming to you live from the Rupavahini National News Studios. I am Thilina Udayaratna together with Kasuni Balachandra. The President emphasizes that he will never betray the trust the people have placed in him under any circumstance. The Maha Sangha praises the President for his address to the nation. The Energy Minister states that the fuel shortage will be resolved in the next couple of days. The United States' President claims that the Russian President is a war criminal. COVID-19 fatalities in the country decline. Poland's Karolina Bielawska is crowned as Miss World 2021. 4 have died from a powerful earthquake in Japan. And for starters, we take a look at some local stories. Well, today is the Madin full moon Poya Day, and several record of important historic events have taken place on a day like today. The ancient history of Buddha Sasana records that Lord Buddha visited the Kapilavastu kingdom of his father King Suddhodana for the first time following his enlightenment on a Madin Poya Day and preached Dhamma. Preaching of the Sandakinduru Jataka, citing the qualities of Princess Yashodhara and ordaining Princess Rahula and Nanda took place on a Madin full moon Poya Day as well. The history of the Buddha Sasana further records that Lord Buddha displayed Yamamaha Pelahara to the Shakya clan on a similar Poya Day. The Muni Siripa Vandana Poya Day program, organized annually by the national television, was telecast for the 39th occasion. Many affiliated programs including Dhamma sermons, discussions and Buddha Puja events were also broadcast throughout the day from the Sri Pada sacred site. All religious programs were organized under the guidance of Chief Incumbent of the Sri Padasthanaya, Venerable Bengamue Sri Dhammadinna Thera. The 220th sermon of the Amadam Sisilasa Dhamma sermon series, organized on every full moon Poya Day, took place this morning at the temple trees. The sermon was held with the participation of Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa and spouse of the Prime Minister Mrs. Shuranti Wickramasinghe Rajapaksa. The Dhamma sermon was delivered by Venerable Alauwe Anumadisi Thera.
President Gotabaya Rajapaksa urges the people to unite as a nation to overcome the crisis. Addressing the nation yesterday, the president said that he will never betray the trust people have placed in him under any circumstances. He said that he is determined to make tough decisions to find solutions to the inconvenience experienced by the people. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa said that he is aware of the shortages of essential items and increase in prices, as well as the issues such as gas shortage, fuel shortage and power cuts. He added that he is sensitive to the many suffering that people have to experience over the past 2 months. The president said that he knows that this situation will continue for reasons beyond their control, though the government makes maximum possible efforts with regard to these situations. President Rajapaksa said that he accepts responsibility for his own actions. Today, he said that he is determined to make tough decisions to find solutions to the inconvenience that the people are experiencing. He said that a National Economic Council and an advisory committee have been appointed in assistance for these efforts. He said that he will constantly monitor whether the decisions he makes through this are implemented. Therefore, he requested the nation to have faith in the actions he takes on behalf of the people. Increasing shipping costs, rising commodity prices and shortages of certain goods caused by the COVID-19 pandemic are all beyond the control of the government. When those who contributed to the creation of this crisis are criticizing the government in front of the people today, he said that he was attempting to immediately resolve this crisis and provide relief to the people. In a crisis like this, it is the responsibility of the politicians and intellectuals of a country to collectively find solutions to the issues, he added. The president said that the root cause of current issues is the foreign exchange crisis. He further said that the projected export earnings for the year is $12 billion before the rupee was floated. According to the data of the last 2 months, the country has to bear $22 billion as the import cost of this year. Accordingly, this will result in a trade deficit of $10 billion. However, once the rupee is floated, the president said that export earnings are expected to reach $13 billion. This will also reduce the cost of imports from $22 billion to $20 billion, he added. The president said that if that happens, the trade deficit could be reduced to $7 billion, and the government should aim for this target. He also said that the country can also expect $4 billion by providing export services and $5 billion in remittances from expatriate workers. Accordingly, he said that the trade deficit will be $2.4 billion. He said that all must take actions to fill this deficit and increase the foreign exchange reserves. He said that the government has initiated discussions with international financial institutions as well as with friendly countries regarding repayment of loan installments. The government is in discussion with various parties to implement a new method regarding this, which will be beneficial to the country, he added. Yesterday's discussion with the International Monetary Fund was also held for this purpose, the president pointed out. Subsequent to his discussion with the International Monetary Fund, President Rajapaksa said that he has decided to work with them after examining the advantages and disadvantages. Due to several decisions he has taken in the recent past, the president said that the government was able to control the import expenditure to a great extent. He said that the government suspended importing vehicles 2 years ago after foreseeing this issue in advance. In addition, he said that they encouraged local industries. The president said that the most serious issue the nation faces in controlling the cost of imports is the rapidly rising fuel prices in the world market. Generally, more than 20% of the import expenditure is spent on purchasing fuel, he added. In the last few months alone, he said that fuel prices in the world market have more than doubled. This is the reason why the increase in fuel prices in the country was inevitable. He said that fuel is widely used in the country not only for vehicles but also to generate electricity. Therefore, he said that he constantly took steps to discuss and encourage relevant agencies to use renewable energy sources as much as possible. Therefore, by limiting the use of fuel and electricity as much as possible, the citizens too can extend their support to the country at this time, he added. The president said that he hopes that the nation will understand the responsibility which lies at this challenging time. He said that Sri Lanka is a nation that has experienced many adversities and at the same time conquered those challenges throughout the history. He said that the nation has faced foreign invasions, great famines, natural disasters and threats of terrorism. The way the government dealt with COVID-19 situation has been praised even by international organizations, he added. However, he said that the nation has to understand that they have to face difficulties when implementing solutions for the issues for a certain period of time. Therefore, he urged the people not to be discouraged but to unite as a nation to overcome this crisis. He emphasized that the nation requested him to build a secure, disciplined and a modern developed country as well as a better education for the children. The president said that almost 2.5 years of his tenure were devoted to protecting the people and their children from the pandemic. He said that he will dedicate the remaining period of his tenure to accomplish those original goals. The president urged the cabinet, the parliament and public officials to work together as a team to achieve the desired goal of providing a better country for the children with a great commitment.
Well, while the responsibility of making the country better is hoped by 22 million people in the country, the Maha Sangha actually, in fact, they believe that the president's address to the nation was quite regarded. The Maha Sangha it says that the president's address to the nation to brief the public over the prevailing situation in the country is a measure taken by the president, and it was in fact quite timely. The Maha Sangha made these remarks while extending praise for the president for addressing the nation yesterday. Registrar of the Asgiriya chapter, Venerable Dr. Madagama Dhammananda Thera, said that all should appreciate and praise the president for briefing the public over the inconveniences faced by them and the crisis in the country. Despite party politics, all should unite to discuss and find solutions for the prevailing issues, and chief incumbent of the Bellangwilla Rajamaha Vihara, Venerable Dr. Bellangwilla Dhammaratana Thera, said that one of the highlights of the speech was that this challenging situation was not created by the president, which consists of truth.
ඒ ප්‍රකාශයෙන් කෙරුණු කරුණු අනුව
Chief incumbent of the Bellangwilla Rajamaha Vihara, Venerable Dr. Bellangwilla Dhammaratana Thera, also said that one of the highlights in his speech that the accountability and responsibility of this crisis is not borne by the president, which is in fact a truth. The country is facing this crisis due to the shortcomings of the policies on economy adopted by many of those who govern the country. Therefore, it is not suitable to accuse the president as the instigator of the present situation.
වෙනත් රටවලින් ගෙන්වා ගැනීමට සිද්ධ වෙලා තියෙනවා. මේ දක්වා මේ රට පාලනය කළ බොහෝ දෙනෙකු අපේ ආර්ථිකය පිළිබඳව දැක්වූ ආකල්ප වල අඩුපාඩුව නිසා තමයි අද මේ තරම් අවියෝගාත්මක තත්වයකට අපි මුහුණ දෙන්නේ. ඒ නිසා මේකේ නිර්මාතෘවරයා වර්තමාන ජනාධිපතිවරයයි කියලා චෝදනා කිරීම සුදුසු නැහැ කියන එකයි මගේ හැඟීම.
Venerable Umalpe Kasapathera said that as the civil society, all should extend their fullest cooperation for the measures undertaken to direct the nation on the right path. He urged the president to take necessary decisions to take the country on the right path and overcome this crisis situation. Well, in more concerning news now, the situation, Kasuni, in Ukraine seems to be taking a flight because Russian forces persistently engage in assaulting the Ukrainian cities of Mariupol as they have attacked a theatre which was a refugee camp for many people.
Well, Tilna, reports state that 1,000 to 1,200 people have sought refuge at this theatre, but the number of casualties still remain unclear. Ukraine has accused Russian forces of bombing a theatre where civilians were sheltering in the besieged southern city of Mariupol. Ukrainian authorities claim that between 1,000 and 1,200 people had sought refuge in the building. While the number of casualties is unclear, authorities have further said that the basement where people were gathered had withstood the bombing. Russia's defense ministry denied it targeted the theatre, instead claiming the building had been mined and blown up by members of Ukraine's far-right Azov battalion.
Сильная армия в мире. Какая нахер она сильная? Да?
Russia's airstrikes and shells have previously hit a maternity hospital, a church and apartment buildings. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky denounced the bombing and said Russia had deliberately targeted the theatre. Meanwhile, in the northern city of Chernihiv, 13 people waiting in a queue for bread were reportedly killed by Russian shelling. Russia denied the attack and said the incident was a hoax. US President Joe Biden has labeled Russian leader Vladimir Putin a war criminal in comments.
I think he is a war criminal.
The Kremlin said were an unacceptable and unforgivable rhetoric. 3 weeks have passed since Russia made advances into the Ukrainian territory. Russia's offensive around Kyiv appears to have largely ground to a halt despite the regular bombing of residential areas in the capital as the Russian army attempts to regroup and resupply in the northwest and east of Ukraine. Addressing the US Congress, President Volodymyr Zelensky has called on Americans to remember Pearl Harbor and the September 11 terrorist attacks as they watch the people of Ukraine being attacked and killed by Russian forces. The president insisted to create a no-fly zone over Ukraine. The United States and the international community has warned that imposing a no-fly zone could escalate the war with Russia. Meanwhile, President Putin, speaking to the regional mayors, said that the Ukraine had the opportunity and the choice to prevent the ongoing bloodshed. He said Moscow has repeatedly tried to prevent casualties by offering a peaceful solution to Kyiv. He mentioned that Ukraine rejecting a request made by the Russian government to suspend the military presence in the Donetsk and Luhansk, which have been recognized as sovereign states by Russia, was the main cause for the military advances. The Kremlin launched its military operation as the policies made the conflict in Ukraine inevitable. He reiterated that Russia has no intention in taking control of Ukraine at any cost. President Vladimir Putin has said Russia was ready to discuss Ukraine's neutral status, but that Moscow would still achieve the goals of its military operation. He also said that efforts will be taken by the Russian military to reduce any damages to human lives during these advances. The United Nations Security Council is due to vote on a Russian-drafted call for aid access and civilian protection.
Meanwhile, Ukrainian and Russian officials discussed a 15-point draft peace deal in the recent times. The deal reportedly involves Ukraine giving up on its plan to join NATO and ensuring that it does not host foreign military bases from US and other NATO countries. A UN agency is warning that the conflict in Ukraine is likely to hinder access to food and fuel for many of the world's most vulnerable people. A report by the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development notes that Russia accounted for nearly a third of wheat imports for Africa, or $3.7 billion in 2018-2020, while 12% worth $1.4 billion came from Ukraine. The report said initial assessments point to a substantive reduction in access to food and fuel, despite efforts to prevent disruptions of supplies of key commodities such as wheat.
Well, while there are talks of a ceasefire agreement, there's absolutely no certainty that this ceasefire agreement between Ukraine and Russia will in fact be enforced. But in the meantime, back at home, Sri Lanka and India have in fact signed the $1 billion Indo-Lanka loan agreement this evening. The agreement was signed at the Indian Ministry of Finance and in New Delhi under the patronage of Minister Basil Rajapaksa, Indian Minister of Foreign Affairs S. Jaishankar and Indian Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. The agreement is to extend a short-term concessional loan facility of $1 billion from the Indian government to Sri Lanka through the State Bank of India. The loan facility has been extended to purchase essential food items, pharmaceutical and other necessities. Secretary to the Finance Ministry S.R. Artigala signed the agreement on behalf of the Sri Lankan government, while Deputy General Manager of the State Bank of India, Shri Pushkar J, signed on behalf of the State Bank of India. Prior to the signing of the agreement, Minister Basil Rajapaksa held bilateral talks with Indian finance and foreign affairs ministers. It was agreed to prepare a short, medium and long-term economic cooperation framework with the objective of finding solutions for the present economic challenges in the country. Managing Director of the State Bank of India, Shri Ashwini Tiwari, General Manager Shri Vinod Kumar and Sri Lankan High Commissioner in India, Milinda Moragoda, Secretary to the Finance Ministry S.R. Artigala and Deputy High Commissioner of Sri Lanka in India, Niluka Kadrugamua, were present at this occasion.
Well, Tilne, we have reports coming forward on the measures that the government will be taking in order to manage the fuel crisis.
Absolutely. Well, there seems to be quite a bit of queues in and around Colombo looking for fuel. But Minister Gamini Lokuge says that necessary fuel quantities have in fact and will in fact arrive in the country without any shortage in the future. The minister, speaking at a media briefing held today, said that there is no shortage of fuel, but an issue in the fuel distribution is persistent. Minister Gamini Lokuge said that one diesel bowser and a petrol bowser have been dispatched for each filling station in the country. Therefore, the prevailing congestion for fuel will lessen following the distributions. An oil tanker had arrived in Sri Lanka on last Saturday. There is no shortage of fuel, but an issue persists over its distribution. Payments should be made for one oil tanker, while other tankers will arrive in the country on Indian credit loans. He added that Sri Lanka is expected to receive petrol, diesel, aviation fuel and furnace oil from the 30th or 20th. The President's media division has said that necessary payments required for gas ships have already been made. The media division has informed that the distribution of gas will be carried out in a normalized manner. The unloading of gas commenced today after 2 gas ships arrived in the country recently. The Litro Gas Company has said that the distribution of gas will be normalized from tomorrow.
The President's media division says that the news stories on Central Bank Governor Ajit Nivad Cabral has been requested to step down are completely false. Issuing a statement, the President's media division has said that the President has said that he places the fullest confidence and trust on Central Bank Governor Cabral and that he has been a tower of strength in responding to the grave economic challenges faced by the country. The statement has further indicated that the IMF delegated did not discuss about officials and the talks at which Governor Cabral too was present covered only the monetary issues. The statement has mentioned that the President has personally urged Governor Cabral not to be discouraged by these mischievous and fake stories and to continue all his important work for the stability and the growth of the country. And in more local stories, Regional Director of Health Services, Colombo, Dr. Dilip Lianage, says that most of the people have forgotten about the prevailing corona outbreak in the country. He pointed out that the risk of another outbreak looms in large with the upcoming festive season. And Dr. Lianage emphasized the importance in adhering to health protective guidelines under such circumstances. He also urged the public to receive their respective corona vaccinations, and he made these remarks while speaking to the media.
Now we can see, because of the Russia and Ukraine war, lot of people have forget about these epidemics and they are behaving like there is no such epidemics in the environment. So please keep that in mind, and still this epidemic is spreading, and if we forget and if we are behaving like this, we will not be able to celebrate the upcoming New Year. So this is you and my responsibility to behave and adhere to the dream concept, which is wearing the mask regularly and correctly, and wash your hands with running water and soap, and keep the distance, and get the vaccine, and thirdly, and to have the improve your immunity by 10% by adhere to the physical activities. If you can adhere to these basic three principles, you will be able to fight with this COVID epidemic, and you will not be most probably get the infection. And even if you get the infection, the consequences will be very less. So therefore, at the first instance, if you have not taken any kind of vaccine, please attend to the closest MOH or the hospital and get your Pfizer as the first vaccine. And if you have not taken your booster vaccine still, you can get your third dose as a booster dose from your nearest hospital or MOH. And here, lot of people thinking after the second dose that they are protected. With the available data, now we see after probably this immunity will be there around 6 months. After 6 months time, this protection is weaning off. So therefore, if you want to keep your immunity continuously, you have to boost your immunity. For that, you have to get the third dose. So third dose is available at any of the MOH office or the hospital. So please get your vaccine, inoculate it, immune yourself, and get protected yourself, and complete your social responsibility, and let government to continue these development projects.
Poland's Karolina Bielowska has been crowned Miss Universe for the year 2021, best beating contestants from 96 other countries.
Okay, great song, great song. Okay, the winner of the Beauty with a Purpose Ambassador will accompany
The 70th edition of the event was held yesterday night at the Coca-Cola Music Hall in San Juan, Puerto Rico. According to the official Miss World website, Bielowska was crowned by her predecessor Tony Ann Singh of Jamaica, who won the pageant in 2020. This is the second Miss World title for Poland. Anita Kryglika won the coveted pageant back in 1989 for the country. The Miss World pageant was originally scheduled to be held on December 16, 2021 at the Jose Miguel Agrelor Coliseum, but was rescheduled due to the global COVID-19 pandemic. The show was broadcast globally to over 100 countries.
And the winner of Miss World is Poland.
Miss USA Sri Saini, an Indian American, emerged the first runner-up, followed by Cote d'Ivoire Olivia Yace. The official Instagram account of Femina Miss India expressed gratitude towards Varanasi, an engineer from Telangana, for representing country.
Well, Tilna, we have reports on a local sports festival.
Yeah, actually, quite a bit of tourists have come down to Sri Lanka, as today is the second day of the Raid Amazons Tourist Sporting Festival, which is taking place right now in Sigiriya. The festival commenced today with the rowing event. The participants were able to experience the beauty of the Kandalama tank where the event was held. Over 250 French female participants are taking part in the 6-day-long sporting festival. Many other events were also held in the evening, with archery being the main event of the eve. Also, daily programs are being held for French tourists familiarizing with the Sri Lankan cuisine. This program is conducted by the chefs at the Alia Resort. The festival will conclude on the 21st of this month.
We are really happy to travel again after the COVID situation, and it's really pleasant to discover this beautiful country and meet a lot of people during this travel. You are really welcoming, you are really smiling people, you are really nice with us.
We just discovered this nice country, so it's very kind for us. The fruits, the foods, and also, with the massage and all these things. Ayurvedic, it's just perfect.
Yes, it's my first time in this country, and I'm super happy to be there in Sri Lanka. My first impression is the green and the vegetation. Everything is green, there is many flowers everywhere. I have a great experience, great people. This place is simply incredible.
Now, large crowds are arriving at the newly renovated Dharmapala Park in Gold City to spend their time leisurely. The park, renovated by the Urban Development Authority, was under the directions of Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa, was recently vested with the public by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. The park was built by British royalists in the year 1889. The park was named as Victoria Park by the British rulers, marking the coronation of the British monarch Queen Victoria. Following the independence in 1948, the park was renamed as Dharmapala Park. No renovations had been carried out at the park in many years. Accordingly, under the Strategic City Development Project, the government has taken steps to renovate this park, which is under the direct control of the Galle Municipal Council, into an attractive site.
It has been 220 years since the first publication of a Gazette in Sri Lanka. The first issue of the country's Gazette was published on the 15th of March in 1802. This is the first official print document to be published by the British in former Ceylon. The significance of this publication is that its promulgation had in fact laws in effect. Under the administration of the East India Company from 1796 to 1802, they took numerous efforts to seize the overall control of the colonized coastal regions in Sri Lanka through economic, social, cultural and political aspects. Even though Sri Lanka was not fully in control of the British before 1815, they introduced various rules and regulations to enact the authority of the British Crown within the colonized regions. In 1802, they launched the Ceylon Government Gazette in Borella to publish British government notices in the areas under their control. Franz de Bruyn became Sri Lanka's first printer of the press. Certain documents in 1815 and the Colebrook reforms in 1833 were published through this press. Publishing of a Gazette is carried out under an order issued by the Crown Queen of the British Kingdom and is considered as an ordinance. The first issue of the Gazette is considered as a mechanism to obtain information from the regional communities through the Regional Trading Authority and registration of births and deaths. The personnel of the Ceylon Government Gazette were also among the few who were given the right to vote under the 1833 Colebrook reforms. The majority of the personnel employed at the printing press were highly educated with proficiency in English language. The first issue of the Ceylon Gazette appeared on the 15th of March in 1802, followed by the publishing of documents related to judicial, administrative and English services. The printing machine which printed the first issue of the Gazette is still in active service since 1802 at the Department of Government Printing, and it was manufactured in 1792 at the Harold and Sons Company in England. The letter first officer post, which existed at the first issuance of the Gazette, is still in place at the department. Separate equipment are being used to separate large and small fonts as well as columns and to place the state emblem on the Gazette. The equipment used to place the seal of the state emblem in 1802 is still in use at the department to place the seal on modern-day documents. These aged equipment, which are more than 228 years old, exhibit the pride of the British rule in the country. The department continues to harmoniously utilize the old equipment as well as the state-of-the-art technology in the printing press and process to provide and maintain an efficient service.
And in more local stories, Sri Lanka National Arbitration Centre held a press conference yesterday to create awareness on the new UN Central Arbitration expedited rules for the conduct of expeditious, cost-effective dispute resolution.
The most important part here is the speedy resolution time, the confidentiality we have in the business relationships, so that we come to a very efficient way of settling our problems. So this arbitration center has introduced the UN rules, that is UNCITRAL rules, the expedited version from this month, starting immediately. Those expedited rules will detail about how we should conduct arbitration, who are the two parties, arbitrators have roles, support services that we have to give, what is the responsibility of the person representing the two sides, all that is given. So, and that will lead to a speedy and efficient arbitration system. Why we are doing all these things is to educate the local business people, the importance of having arbitration as a location in Sri Lanka. This arbitration also can give you a lot of foreign exchange in a big way, because if we had to promote this as a center for regional arbitration, then we have this particular area of IT-enabled arbitration. We will definitely go into the latest technologies like blockchain and technologies where the world is recognized. The high-end tourism, lots of people who come for arbitrations are rich lawyers, professionals, so they are looking at very high-end tourism here, which also can be added advantage. If you delay a dispute in business, this will delay the economy of our country. This is a national cost because the people of this country owns the money here. They are the owners of this money that we have for Sri Lanka. The benefit will go down to the normal general public by expediting these disputes and getting business people to go ahead with the day-to-day work.
The Special Task Force has seized 6.9 million rupees worth Kerala cannabis during raids conducted in the last 24 hours. The Special Task Force has apprehended 53 kilograms of Kerala cannabis during these raids. The raids, which were conducted based on a tip-off received by the Organised Crime Prevention Unit of the Special Task Force, the officers were able to apprehend nearly 43 kilograms of Kerala cannabis during a raid carried out in Mabola, Vattala. A 27-year-old suspect has also been apprehended during the raid, and meanwhile another raid was carried out in Thale Mannar Police Division based on a tip-off received by the Special Task Force in Mannar. Accordingly, a 30-year-old suspect was taken into custody along with nearly 10 kilograms of Kerala cannabis during the raid. Over 1 kilogram of Kerala cannabis along with a 46-year-old suspect have been taken into custody in Kuliyapitiya. Further investigations are underway over these incidents. Well, that's it on local news. Stay tuned with us. We will be back with the international news right after this break.
බුද්ධිමත් ඇගේ තීරණය ප්‍රීමාස්ටෙල.
Welcome back to the news, and in international news, calamity could be a focus in Japan as another 7.4 magnitude earthquake could impact the economy of Japan as we see something hit Fukushima.
The quake hit off the coast of Japan's eastern Fukushima prefecture, a region devastated by a powerful quake and a tsunami 11 years ago. The quake was originally designated 7.3 magnitude but was upgraded to 7.4 today. A tsunami advisory was issued after yesterday's quake for the coastal prefectures of Fukushima and Miyagi but was lifted in the late hours.
We're back with sports news here at the Sri Lanka Rupavahini Corporation. Not so good news for Sri Lanka cricket as we lost the series against India 2-0, this test series that we just concluded, and some of our players have in fact returned to the country after the 238-run loss in the last test.
Sri Lanka lost the test series against India by 2-0. Sri Lanka is currently ranked at the 5th position in the World Test Championship following the series defeat. Meanwhile, Sri Lanka has been placed at the 7th position in the test rankings announced by the International Cricket Council.
Well, IPL 2022 is just at the corner as we expect most of our Sri Lankan players to hit India for the IPL, which is about to begin in a few weeks. Players like Mahela Jayawardene, Maha Sangha, Lasith Malinga, Muthaiya Muralidharan and Wanindu Hasaranga have already taken to India for the commencement of IPL 2022.
This year's edition of Indian Premier League will consist of 10 franchises. 5 Sri Lankan players are taking part in the tournament. Wanindu Hasaranga will represent Royal Challengers Bangalore, Dishmantha Chamira will represent Lucknow Super Giants and Mahesh Deekshana is playing for Chennai Super Kings. Charmik Karunaratne and Bhanuka Rajapaksa will represent Kolkata Knight Riders and Punjab Kings respectively. Mahela Jayawardene is the head coach of the Mumbai Indians while director of Rajasthan Royals is Maha Sangha. Lasith Malinga is the fast bowling coach of the Rajasthan Royals. Muthaiya Muralidharan is the bowling coach of the Sunrisers Hyderabad. This is the 15th edition of the Indian Premier League and Mumbai Indians has clinched the league championship 5 times while Chennai Super Kings has become the champions on 4 occasions.
Well, that's it from the news desk for tonight. Join us once again tomorrow at the very same time. Until then, thanks for watching. Have a great night.
Good night.